Hello, I'm Mark Grant and I'm the Chief Executive at Action Homeless here in Leicester. Well, 2020 has been a year like no other, and it provided some real challenges. It also gave us an opportunity to rethink the way that we deliver homeless services within our city. Our first challenge was getting everybody who was sleeping rough at the start of the pandemic into safe and secure accommodation and protect them from the virus. And I'm very pleased to say, with the help of other organisations and partners, we managed to achieve this and maintain it. Numbers of people sleeping rough on our streets right now are the lowest they've ever been. However, this is only our first challenge. We had lots of people feeling very isolated and very lonely, and we had to find a way in which we could overcome these barriers and make sure that they maintain their accommodation and not return to the street. I'm very proud to say that Action Homeless staff responded, despite their own concerns and worries, and continued to provide the support that people needed throughout the pandemic. We also received a significant amount of help and support from the public and other funders that enabled us to overcome some of the isolation and hardship that people were experiencing. Our COVID impact report gives you more detail and insight into some of the actual work that we've done, but you're now going to hear some stories from some of our staff and clients about their own experiences over the last few months, and also about how our support has helped change people's lives through this very, very difficult time. Thank you.
I was asked if I would sort of isolate. No one knew at the beginning of how long it was going to be. So initially it was, I didn't think it was going to be too bad. It would just be a case of running a couple of weeks out. But as it went on and on, it got to the sort of point where it had been 4 months and I'd not seen my family or my children, which had become a major impact on my mental health. An issue during the pandemic was the closely bidding for the housing. For I think it was about 3 or 4 months, and now when the houses have come back up, there's very little houses available. Sometimes there's 3 or 4, sometimes there's none. Just before the lockdown, I went to go see my sister in Ireland, which did help, to sort of ease away when I got back in and had to isolate. But I did receive a phone call every day from Claire to see how we're doing. There's been a few issues while COVID's been down, or with the pandemic, where I've needed help. Things like being able to renew my bus pass, or help getting meds, or getting lots of things sorted. Where if I was left to do it myself, I would be prone to lose my temper or not get it done. So it's good to have had some support through the pandemic. There's a couple of things that I sort of found helpful in here. That's having the support of someone here when, if you've got someone in your corner and you need something doing, you're able to rely on someone to get it done. So, the only way I think to sort of move forward and that is to be housed. That's just the main goal. But with the pandemic, you begin to worry a bit more. Is that going to slow things down again? Is it going to stop? Moving forward, it's really to look at what I can get back into after this. The career that I had before was in hospitality. Whether I would have returned to hospitality with or without the problem with the pandemic is negotiable, because it caused a lot of my mental health problems. So to be looking at getting into something slowly, but most of all looking after my health now. I found out at the beginning of the pandemic I had diabetes 2. I'd been eating really, really badly before that. Eating a lot of sort of takeaways and not looking after myself. But finding out that I've had diabetes 2 has given me the motivation to try and get myself healthy, and mentally and physically. It's very difficult to find. You've got to fight for everything, but you have to have someone that's prepared to help you fight for it. If you find yourself all of a sudden in a position where you were living a fairly normal life, and then the next minute you've had a breakdown and you've lost everything. You've lost your family, you've lost your house, and you lost your business. It'll be very difficult to try and get things done, and that's why it's good to have someone to help you with it. And if you do find yourself in the situation, it's something that you're going to have to be prepared to be patient with, and things don't often happen overnight, and you've got to realise that things are often going to go wrong or get worse before they get better.
I'm currently the coordinator of the recovery and settlement team here at Action Homeless. So we work with people that move out into their own properties. We were initially sort of employed to highlight and find people in Action Homeless properties and to match them with properties that were available at the time. And once we've done that, we then work with them in their properties to help them maintain that accommodation. So whether that's helping source furniture, because a lot of the time these properties are empty, and also carpeting, and also just to put them in contact with other services such as STAR, mental health services, potentially Turning Point, things like that, just so they've got the support involved so that they can maintain their accommodation. My main concern that sort of keeps coming up is that a lot of people, because of the pandemic, obviously with a lot of support services being closed, not being able to see family and friends, is that people are feeling quite isolated and lonely, which can obviously bring some problems up for people. And obviously we're trying to find ways of helping with that in lockdown, which is very hard. So there are things we are trying to put in place. Obviously there's a support from us. There's also mentoring projects like with the Bridge in Leicester that we have been setting up, but again, a lot of the time it's over the phone. So we're just trying to look for other ways to keep people spending their time well, really. I mean, the biggest success is that we've moved over 60 people since sort of April time into their own accommodation, which is pretty amazing, and we're continuing to work with those people now to make sure they maintain those accommodation. I think sort of the main thing is affordable accommodation, and it's good quality for people. So yeah, we need more of that, and hopefully as long as we can access that for people, then we're all good.
Obviously, because I was in there because things were done for you. You weren't on your own in there. But I think, and there were obviously restrictions, coming to force. Because you're with other people, it's not so bad. It's always, when as I've been out here on my own, it could probably be completely different because nobody come out to visit you. Nobody does. Everything's done on the phone. Yeah, I've got my little place. It's nice, it's come out of it. It's not because of the I mean, I would have got it at Bentley's there, or I might have had it sooner, but it would have been nice. It's somewhere I'm not everywhere I live for the last 15 years has moved. Oh, it's lovely. I mean, I could sit and do my own thing, as you can see, doing my own style and that. So the weirdest thing was when I got my carpet, because it took me a while to get it sorted out. I had hard floor, but it was walking around in your shoes without your shoes on. And it's just getting used to that nice soft carpet. And I'm still getting used to the heating because living in the places I lived in, you're not the heating's not always been there. You don't leave it on all night. In the camper van, you leave it on all night, you're going to run out of gas. You know what I mean? But it's getting used to it. I mean, I know I can go like that and switch on, but then again, obviously I've got to work out. I've got to pay for it. It's just having help with dealing with the bills. I think I've been lucky compared to a lot of people. I'm obviously speaking to some people and seeing some of the things that go on there. I think I'm one of the lucky ones. But being in a situation I'm in now, like because I can't work, which is all when you work to it, like. But I'm still sort of count myself lucky compared to a lot of people.
Due to the high demand of emergency food provisions and local hot food services being closed, it's been increasingly difficult for people to get food when needed and knowing where to go when they need food. Many services within the city have moved away from face-to-face contact, meaning it's been very difficult for people to make appointments, engage with services and build relationships with services that they need to access. So at the beginning of the pandemic, Action Homeless had some emergency funding, which meant we were able to buy phones for people that didn't have one, meaning it was easier to contact them when they needed help with anything or if they needed to isolate. I feel like there needs to be more affordable housing for people and also more landlords that are willing to accept people that are on benefits.
I've been with Action Homeless now near about 18 months. I first got to the attention of Action Homeless when I was with Unity House, which is next door to Action Homeless on Ashley Road. And then I came with my support worker to have a look at these flats, and then I decided on flat 2. And I've been here ever since. The flat's good. Obviously, once you move, when you first see everything, everything's all hunky-dory. But then after you move in, you start noticing little like faults and stuff. But apart from that, it's been alright. During this pandemic, I have struggled. Because when it first come down to lockdown, at first, because I suffer from depression and mental health, I was already told not to isolate. And then all of a sudden, the government's telling me I've got to isolate, you can't move about. And it just got to us. I started getting depressed. Started drinking more, and then through that, suicidal thoughts started getting worse. And then there was one time where I actually took a whole load of tablets and rang my support worker on and says, look, I can't cope with this. And then unfortunately I had Denise is aware and Reg, I had to have the police come down and break the door. But ever since then, like I promised Denise I'm not going to let myself get that bad in a state. Get a lot of help. Like Denise is always saying if I need any help, she's always at the end of the line. Reg has been a few times saying during this pandemic, if I need anything, that they'll go out and get me bits and stuff. Or if I didn't have the support and stuff, it'd be a real struggle. I mean, I dread to think what it's like for someone who's literally by themselves. And if you're all by yourself and you haven't got a support bubble or anything like that, you know, it's a real struggle. And at the end of the day, it's any form of human contact. Only when you haven't got that, just to speak to someone, even if saying hello and stuff, you know, them words go a long way. I do voluntary work, so I'm looking at doing either mentoring at Turning Point or mentoring with probation or some way. But I'm working with my care worker due at Turning Point to see if we can work something around. Because I've had a few people say that, you know, I'll be pretty good at it. So I'm thinking, well, right now, just give me something to do. I'm better off doing that. But I know because of this pandemic, things are up in the air, so it's not quite the same. But hopefully, you know, we won't be in this that long. And, you know, there'll be that light at the end of the tunnel. You know, because anyone's one paycheck away from being homeless. And, you know, it's not a nice place to be. I won't certainly want to be there again. You know, but touch wood, lucky I've landed on my feet. But like I say, I had no way of intentionally being homeless. I was made through the course and everything. And, you know, lucky I've met, like, people like Kathy at Unity House and Denise at Action Homeless to get me the support and get me back on to my feet where I am now. But I won't wish it on anyone. It's not a nice experience, and it takes you to dark places that you don't want to go. Even if it's a small little gesture, you know, like if you can donate anything when you go shopping or help these food banks and stuff. Because whatever small little bits you do, if everyone wants to do the same, you know, we'll be able to help people who are a lot less fortunate than what we are in a position. So if you're in a position to help, you know, help as much as you can.
I'm a play worker. I work with children under the age of 12, providing play sessions, working around things like education, domestic violence, and I've recently been supporting the mums in kind of getting routines in place for the children. So families became quite stressed over the time to stay inside a lot, children off school, obviously affecting their education. A lot of families were isolating to bedrooms, so obviously going from being outside, not really going outside to parks, to having to stay in just one small room with a couple of beds. Obviously community areas were open, but they were trying to avoid it, so it's obviously quite stressful, confusing for children, having to be out of education when they've been used to going to school Monday to Friday, affected families' routines. The role got affected as we were trying to limit the amount of contact we had with people, so all my group sessions and one-to-ones unfortunately had to stop. So I wasn't able to do any of that with families, and the amount of support we could give to the parents as well was limited. So we tried to make parents work more with their children. So rather than myself doing the one-to-ones, I was able to come into the office, make packs up, and then give it to the families to carry out these activities with their children, which actually really helped families get more involved. So yes, so we had some children need funding, and we got funding to do our playroom up, which is having new curtains, new flooring, brand new toys. We also got a large fund to replenish all our toy stock, and also an extra funding to do our outdoors up, so the children still had somewhere to go. They still had the outdoor play area because they couldn't go to parks. And I think families have worked really well together. The girls here have supported each other and helped each other out. Kind of become like one little family becoming one big family. Some of the challenges families are still facing is the housing being stopped or opened or delayed. So lack of housing to bid on, lack of movement, so families are still being offered properties, but then it's taken a while for those offers to actually become available, as in getting the keys to the property. Children are still having time off school, unfortunately, either with coughs, colds, if they get a bit of a cold, school send them home is precautionary, or if someone in their class gets coronavirus, the whole group then has to stay off, so children are then isolated into their bedrooms, which I think is even harder. It was harder than the first time of lockdown. Some positives are we've seen real good relationships improve between the mums and the children, especially doing the one-to-ones themselves and carrying it out. They've really got involved, and a lot of them have been eager to hand the work back to me to show what they've done with the children. So we've seen relationships form there and bonds get stronger. Some families putting some more routines while they're at home, like get toilet training done. Also, there are some positives. We have seen some people get housed during the pandemic. So although it's taken a little bit longer, once housing opened up, it was moved very quickly. We had about 3 families move out all at once, which is fantastic because then they're able to set up their own life in their own home, and it's just a bit of positive in 2020.
I've received a lot of support. It's quite overwhelming actually sometimes when I get to think about it. I've received a lot of support, more than what I've ever done, like especially when it comes to housing, and I've received way too much support. I think because I actually go to the time I wasn't actually homeless, but I wasn't living in a comfortable situation, and it was not good for my mental state, for my son's mental state, for the people that I was staying with. Although they were being very, very good by helping out, I was practically homeless. And I think people think maybe, like, I don't know, like the stereotype about if you like homelessness is just viewed as something that's so bad, but it's something that can happen to anyone. It can literally happen to anyone, not because you can't afford it, you don't have the money, but just how the situation is now, like in terms of housing and all of that. It's not always easy to get a house, and like for me, because I had just literally hit rock bottom, and for me, like, nursing was just because I went through a lot, especially after I had my son and all that, and I needed to do something for myself, you know what I mean? And I managed to get somebody who actually understood what I was going through and did everything that they could, and actually eventually managed to get me somewhere to stay. So I think sometimes looking for help, like the one thing too, like I'd literally given up, and I just went on the internet. I was just calling everybody because, you know, it'll be good for you to get somewhere like shelter. I was just calling anybody and everybody because I needed something. So I literally went around and called, and there's always someone out there to help. There's always someone who's gonna lend their hand, even if they might not be able to help. There's someone else who's just gonna be able to listen or refer you to the right place. But you never know who you might find that may refer you to the right place, refer you to a friend or someone who can help or something like that. To be fair, because at the start of the pandemic, I had just finished uni. I originally wanted to take a break anyway, because I was thinking, okay, I'll take a break for like maybe 3 months or so, because as well, like during Easter, like the 2-week holiday, I wanted to try and see if I could go back to my home country, like in Zimbabwe, go and just relax there for a little bit and then come back. But even though I wasn't able to do that, I really wanted to just take a break because it was stressful. It was stress. So at the beginning, it was bad because obviously you couldn't go out and actually do stuff, but it was good in a sense that I managed to rest. I managed to just take some time and just relax. I spent time with my son. I stayed here with him, and I managed to actually spend time with him. And it was so good. So in that sense, it didn't affect me as much because I actually got to just relax and spend time with my son. And then I was homeschooling him, and I was even shocked because I never even had the time just to sit down with him, just check his progress, what he's doing, we do like homework after school and that, but you don't really get to actually sit down and see where he's at. So it was good. I actually did receive a lot of support. Donia was calling me, and like, you know, they offered, especially for Jermaine. Jermaine had some toys and stuff that he had just to keep himself entertained, to play with and whatnot. And she offered me some books, like, I like reading and that. And she offered me some books that I could have, So it was quite supportive.
I hope the stories and experiences you just heard from our staff and clients has given you an insight of what it's been like at Action Homeless and for them over the past few months. I'd like also take this opportunity to thank everybody who helped us and supported us. Your help has made a real difference, and we've managed to change many people's lives in this very, very difficult time. Once again, many thanks.